Hello, I'm Chef David of chefsresources.com and welcome to another edition of Whiteboard Chef Management. In this episode, we're going to discuss the differences between theoretical and actual food cost percentages. In our last episode, we talked about the food cost percentage myth and why food cost percentage by itself is utterly ineffective as a tool to evaluate the success or failure of your food service operation, your manager, your chef. Okay? So if you haven't watched that episode, I highly recommend that you go back and watch that first because it is a precursor to this conversation. In that episode, we showed how sales mix directly impacts your food costs, and we also showed how a high food cost might actually be a good thing. You might want to have a high food cost because of margin. So we went into a whole conversation about margin as well. So anyways, I highly recommend that you go back and watch the food cost percentage myth if you haven't. So moving on to our current conversation. Theoretical food cost percentage is based upon the total menu items sold. So in other words, if you sell, say, 300 crab cakes and 250 Caesar salads and 300 filet mignons, 175 halibut, and so on, your sales mix or your theoretical food cost is based upon the food cost percentage for each one of your menu items sold, because they will all have a different food cost. And by totaling out everything sold from your POS system, you can get a theoretical food cost. Okay? There are three things that are required in order to get that theoretical food cost. First, you need to have accurate written recipes. By accurate, I mean it includes everything, right down to the butter on the toast. And very clear specs on your portion sizes and so on and so forth. So clearly written recipes. Next thing you need is accurate and updated costing. So all of the prices that go into the items on your menu, the fresh basil, the crab meat, whatever, need to be updated on a regular basis. So really the best way to do it is when you are doing your month-end inventory for actual food costs in your P&L, that's when you should also update all of the costing on all of your recipes so that they are current pricing. Last thing you need is accurate sales reporting. Now this is typically done through POS systems, and that's probably the easiest part to get done. If you're super lucky, you may have a system that links your POS system with your recipe system and with your inventory control system. And it may actually already have a tool built in which will calculate your theoretical food cost. But theoretical food cost is still a relatively new concept within hospitality, so you might have to do it the old-fashioned way. So check the links below in the description area under the video. I've got a free download for a sales mix calculator. It's done in Excel, and you'll have to put in your POS information and cost of your recipes, but it will calculate your theoretical food cost for you, give you margin, and a lot of other useful information. Another good point here is no open food. You don't want to have open food on your P&L statements. You don't want to have it in your POS system if you can avoid it. You know, if it's only $100, $200, you know, it's not going to impact you much. But if it's $1,000 or more, you know, you could be getting screwed there. You're not going to know the cost of what's going in there. Your salespeople could be selling lobster for $2 or something. So try to eliminate open food off of your POS system by putting in keys for the things that your servers are using open food for. All right, so moving on to actual food cost. Actual food cost is always higher than your theoretical food cost. It is impossible for actual food cost to be lower than theoretical, okay? Actual food cost includes everything that your theoretical doesn't. Again, theoretical is only based upon your menu. It does not include things like waste, cook and server and customer errors, inventory or accounting errors, theft, unaccounted for items. All of these things are part of actual food cost. And these are the things that show up then as your actual food cost and your P&L statement. And they're part of the 40 Thieves of Food Cost, which is a massive conversation that we'll get into at a future date. Something really to catch here, though, is unaccounted for items on your menu. Things like if you give guests bread, rolls, butter, ketchup, so on and so forth, and it's not written into your recipes somehow, then this is one of the things that is always going to affect the difference between your theoretical food cost and your actual food cost. And another item is fryer oil. If you go through a lot of fryer oil and that is counted as part of your food cost, then somehow you need that also worked into your food cost or into your recipes, because it will reflect as a discrepancy or a variance between your theoretical food cost and your actual food cost. All right, so let's move on to P&L meetings. When you go to your P&L meeting, of course, you're going to have your actual food cost. The corporation will have that knowledge for you. You certainly want to have it ahead of time so you can evaluate it and know if you're in good shape or bad shape. But you also always want to have your theoretical food cost or your sales mix. Having those two numbers is going to help you answer questions and evaluate the health of your business. Okay? Knowing both numbers gives you a better picture of what is actually going on with your food service operation. Knowing both numbers helps you account for fluctuations. So if your theoretical food cost has increased this month over last month, then you should also see that your actual food cost has increased. Or if the theoretical has decreased, then your actual should decrease. So knowing those two numbers can definitely help you explain why your actual food cost has gone up and down. Theoretical food cost swings of plus or minus 2 points is rather common. Looking back over our P&Ls for the past year and a half, I've seen the theoretical food costs move up or down by as much as 2 points from one month to another. Now that's extremely important because that means my actual food cost has probably also swung up or down by 2 points. Knowing that information is extremely helpful in your P&L meetings because you can point to it and say, you know what? I couldn't have gotten a lower food cost because my theoretical was high by 2 points. Sales mix evaluation indicates what to promote, i.e. margin. So when you complete this process and use some type of software to evaluate your sales mix, then you'll know which items you make the most money on or which items you have the most margin on. And in your P&L meetings, then you'll know what items to highlight in your menu in a better way. So what is a good variance between theoretical food cost and actual food cost? Truth is, I don't know. I don't have enough data from enough different types of operations across the states to give you an honest answer on that. So I'll give you the next best thing, all right? Best practices, first of all, are to track your venue for 6 to 12 months. Over a period of 6 to 12 months, you're going to see a trend of a variance between your theoretical and your actual food cost. And that's going to be very helpful because once that trend is set up, then you'll know that you should be within 1 point or within 2 points or whatever. All right? What I've observed over the course of a year in watching 5 different operations is that first, each operation is different. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. All right? We have a sandwich shop, And what I've seen on that is over the course of a year, the average variance between theoretical and actual food cost percentage is about 1 point. Now, month to month, it can swing more than that. Actually, some months quite a bit more. But once it's averaged out over the course of a year, it looks like 1 point is about the average variance for that between theoretical and actual. And that's good information to know. All right, that can help you in your meetings. And then for an upscale fresh seafood joint, I've noticed that the average variance between theoretical and actual food cost is about 1.5 points. Now again, it does bounce higher and lower month by month, but average through the whole year, it's about 1.5 points difference between those two. And that can help a lot when you're looking at your food cost and at your variances to see whether or not you are in a healthy situation or if you've got to do some deep diving to figure out a potential problem. Okay, so next step is best practices. So once you've got all of this and you've got, your theoretical food cost and everything, what you want to do next is evaluate what is in the variance. So if we're looking at 1.5 points or we're looking at 1 point or whatever it is, the next best thing to do is start figuring out what is in that variance. How can you make that variance a little bit tighter? And that is going to go straight back into evaluation of the 40 thieves of food cost and the things that are impacting your actual food cost. What things are missing from the variance as opposed to your actual. All right, so I hope that was helpful. Please leave comments and questions below. There's really at least 3 separate videos on this topic. The food cost percentage myth, this one on the differences between theoretical and actual, and then another video which really dives into Excel software for sales mix. So have a great day, and we'll see you at the next Whiteboard Chef Management.